Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Fadeaway podcast, episode 3. My name's Tate, and I'm here with Gavin.
Hello.
And today we're going to be doing our top 5 favorite historic players of all time. So not necessarily the best, but just our favorite players. So let's jump right into it. Gavin, you want to lead off the list?
Yeah, of course. We're going to be doing 5 to 1, so going up the list. So starting with my number 5 is Dirk Nowitzki. The reason he's in my top 5 is because I think he's one of the greatest, not only power forwards of all time, he's one of the greatest shooters. I think he has one of the most impressive NBA championships ever. He didn't really have a superstar on his team, and he was going up against a newly formed super team, with LeBron, Dwayne, and Chris Bosh. So I just think how much of a fundamental player he is as a shooter. He wasn't the best defender ever, but he could still guard people his size. But I think it was great how his career went. He spent his entire time with the Dallas Mavericks, which he's probably going to be one of the last players you ever see do that, just stay on one team for their entire career, especially how long of a career he had. So I just like how he plays. Obviously, his shooting. I'm a big fan of shooters. So yeah, that's why I have him at my number 5.
Okay, so my number 5 is Scottie Pippen. I'm a big defense guy. So I love people that are really good two-way players, and Scottie's probably one of the best examples ever of that. He's arguably the best defender of all time for guards and 3s and 4s. Maybe not so much 5s, but yeah. And then also as his when he came in the league, he was really good at defending, and as his career went on, he was able to develop more on the offensive end and kind of completed that two-way game.
Understood. Yeah, I really
Yeah.
like him. I don't think really people understand how important he was to Jordan's success.
Oh yeah.
Without him, Jordan wouldn't have won a single championship. Like, not a single one. With who they were playing, he was so key to where he could switch on any player on the floor when he needed to, the 1 through the 4, like you said. So I like that pick. All right, so moving on to my number 4, it's Steve Nash. Now, Steve Nash is one of my more recent followed players. I kind of just knew of him as a player, knew what people said about him, but I never really paid attention exactly to who he was as a player. And then more recently, within the past couple of years, I've watched videos of highlights, even full games with him playing in it. So just to see how smart of a player he was, and to know, like, you see a short white dude and you don't really think he's going to do much on the court, but he was just able to make a pass anywhere on the floor exactly when it needed to happen. He could pull up and shoot. Also one of the best shooters, like I mentioned, I'm a big fan of shooters. Also one of the best shooters ever. So he was great in the pick and roll, everything like that. So he really had all the keys to become the Hall of Fame player that he became. And it was sad to see him kind of fall off once he left the Suns and went to the Lakers, but he did have to deal with injuries. But even after that, and now he's out there. He's one of the coaches I think he's a shooting coach for the Warriors at this point. So he's just still keeping himself active in the NBA, even though he's not playing anymore. So.
Yeah, I like that. I like that pick. His passing instincts were off the chart, and yeah, when he went to the Lakers, he threw out his back like 2 or 3 seasons in a row
Yeah,
or something,
he was just
and he
getting
was just
old.
never the same. Yeah. Yeah, but that's a nice pick. I like it. Not necessarily one of mine, but I can respect the pick.
Also, back-to-back MVP. I'm going to throw that in there,
Back to
even
back
though
MVP.
people think Kobe deserved them both years. But
Well, the Kobe thing is kind of like, I think it's like James Harden, where he was averaging like 35 points and he scored a lot, but Steve Nash had a bigger impact on his team.
yeah. All right, your number 4?
My number 4 is Tim Duncan, the big fundamental, and that's kind of why I like him. So being at a 4 and possibly being the best power forward of all time, but just being able to do and have impact on his team with being like fundamentally sound. I mean, he did more than that, obviously, but he's not like the most athletic guy. He's not dunking on people and getting big stuff. He's helping his team where he can, and he just over time he just got so good, and it's
Yeah.
ridiculous to watch him play because it's not flashy, and that's what people are so used to now. Is they
Yeah.
want big flashy players, and Tim Duncan was able to be one of the greatest players of all time, not being a flashy player and just getting it done.
Yeah, he's one of those players that even when he got up there into his 30s, like he was still making impact for his team just because he had such a good baseline fundamentally that he could, like, even though he got older, that touch he had off that mid-range shooting off the backboard, his defenses post-game, that stuff, when you get it down to such a skill that he had, that stuff doesn't really go away with age. So he was able to stay as an impactful player even throughout his 30s, which not a lot of players can do. And for him especially to go onto a team that already had a, Hall of Fame big man with David Robinson, and for him to go in, win a championship with him, and still have the impact that he did, like that's insane to see. You don't see that very much. So
Yeah.
all right, so going on to my number 3, I have Penny Hardaway. So the reason I have him on my list, which one is I don't think he's talked about enough when it comes to all-time greats. He's another player that had to deal with injuries a lot, really ruined his career. But when he was at his best, he was one of the best point guards in the league. Especially at his size, to be able to do the things he did, his passing, he could handle the ball crazy, pretty decent shooter throughout his career. And it's sad to see how his career ended. But, I mean, now coaching Memphis, correct? Yeah, coaching Memphis. But when he was playing, he was a really exciting player to watch. So.
Yeah, he kind of had the same deal as Steve Nash. He didn't play that long, but was it his knees? It was his legs, right?
Yeah, it was his
he
knees.
just couldn't. Okay. Yeah, Penny's pretty exciting to watch. Just kind of happens to some of the people that you think are going to be like some of the greatest players of all time. They just get injuries 3, 4, 5 years in a row, and they're just never back.
All right, your number 3?
My number 3 is going to be the big man Bird.
Right.
Big Larry Bird fan because I'm kind of biased because he's from Indiana, and just watching Larry play. I don't know if you've watched the Magic and Larry thing where it talks about their stuff during their championships and stuff during the 80s. But Larry is like, I feel like Larry gets talked about a little bit, but he doesn't get talked about enough being one of the most dominant players I think ever.
On
Not
the
necessarily
side,
like,
yes.
He defense, no.
He was a decent defender. He could get steals, but he was nothing to talk about.
He was just slow. That's
Yeah.
But I mean, just watching him like go out on the court and just literally like broadcast what he was going to do to the other team, and then still be able to do it, and just continue that. It's ridiculous to watch, and it sucks because I think he could have played longer, but as a man, he had to pour some concrete and threw out his back, and that kind of ruined it for him. So
See, but that's what you see, like the difference between back then and nowadays. Like nowadays, players don't really hurt themselves doing normal things. Like back then, yes, they were still seen as like celebrities and everything like that. But at the end of the day, like Larry Bird owned a farm, was a normal dude, like doing normal day-to-day things, and he got injured because of it. Like teams didn't really worry about that back then. Like players still had normal lives. So, but yeah, he also on the '92 Dream Team. He was a big part of that. So, he would definitely be my top 10 favorite players. He was just an insane scorer. So, moving on, my number 2 is going to be Hakeem Olajuwon. I think he's honestly one of the most underrated, not just centers but players. All-time leader in blocks, probably the best post scorer, best footwork we've ever seen from a center. There's an argument you could make for him being the greatest center ever. I really think there is, because he had all the tools. He had a mid-range shot, obviously an amazing inside defender, post scoring, everything. And just because he played in an era with so many centers, Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, Shaq, everything like that. I feel like he doesn't get the respect he deserves, but just the reason I like him so much is because of that fact, is that he's underrated and people don't talk about him nearly as much as they should. So.
Yeah, I like it. I think best center of all time, it's kind of hard because it's so hard to compare eras. So Hakeem playing, like, it's kind of hard to compare people like Kareem and Wilt, who played before him.
Yeah.
And maybe a little, it's so difficult, but it's never
Plus,
like
there's
definitive.
just so many. There's just so many centers on,
Yeah.
around the list. Bill Russell, Kareem, Shaq, even someone like Moses Malone. Like, these are all-time greats. So it's at some points it gets hard to decipher who's where on the list.
Yeah. And it's difficult because I feel like big men don't get talked about a lot in like best player of all time conversation a little bit. I feel like it's always guards and kind of
Small
the
forwards,
smaller guys.
Well, basically 1 through 4. I mean 1 through 3. Sorry.
Yeah.
Is when you get those greatest of all time stocks. So. All
Mm-hmm.
right, moving on to your number 2.
My number 2 is, in my opinion, the greatest pacer of all time, Reggie Miller. Kind of, I mean, he had a good team around him and stuff, but he's just arguably, well, maybe not arguably because Steph Curry is a person, but one of the greatest shooters of all time. I mean, he took the Pacers to the 2001 finals, I'm pretty sure. I think that was the year I was just born. But just watching him play and being one of the biggest trash talkers in the league, and kind of his rivalry with the Knicks, I think that's really entertaining stuff to watch if you haven't watched it. Going back and watching Reggie's games when they played in the East and the Pacers played the Knicks. But also just, I mean, he is, like, Ray Allen is an amazing shooter, but I feel like Reggie's a better, all-around player than Ray Allen was. And we talked about this, I think, on one of the other episodes, but Reggie doesn't really get enough respect or talked about because he's not in 2K. He's one of the few people, it's just people don't think about him, I feel like.
Well, younger people don't think about him.
Yeah.
No, I completely
that's
agree
my
with
number.
you. Just seeing him, not only, it wasn't just his rivalry with the Knicks as a team, it was them, just New York in general. Because you saw, like, he would be playing, and he would hit 3 threes in a row, and then he'd go say something to Spike Lee, who was sitting courtside. So it wasn't just, and not only but he would trash talk Michael Jordan, his rivalry with the Bulls, everything like that. Like, there was, even though a lot of people see him as kind of just a shooter, like, he didn't care who you were. He was going to come on to the court and just do everything he could to just get in your head and just score 25, 30, and 9. He didn't care. So.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so moving on to our number ones. So my number 1, my all-time historic favorite player is Tracy McGrady. Now, he has a similar case of Penny Hardaway, where his career definitely got taken down because of injuries and everything like that. But when he was at his best on the Magic, I definitely think you can make a case for him being one of the greatest scorers ever. There was literally no one in the league that could stop him on the offensive end. Kobe himself said that Tracy McGrady was the hardest person he's ever had to guard. So I think that really speaks numbers to his game. I don't know, man. You just watch his highlights, and it's just insane to see what he did on the basketball court. And to go from, like, him not even being seen as a main option on Toronto, behind Vince Carter, for him to basically go on his own team and just dominate the way he did, literally carry them, because he had no one else on that team, carry them to the playoffs, even though they didn't really have any success in the playoffs. But if he would have been healthy and stayed on the Rockets and been able to produce like he could on the Magic, I truly think that Rockets team could have won championships with Yao Ming. Yao Ming, if he could have stayed healthy as well, but just it's one of those cases. It's sad to see him go down the way he did, but he was one of the most fun people to watch when he was at his best. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wish I could attest to that, but I just don't know too much about Tracy, other than he was plagued by injuries a little bit. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I guess we'll move on to your number one.
Yeah, my number one, my favorite player of all time is Kobe Bryant. Now, Kobe is my favorite player because it's just watching him play is just ridiculous. It's maybe not so much his play, it's his, it's kind of cliche, but Mamba mentality now. But it's just he had like this killer instinct on the court. And if he felt like he needed to do something to help his team, he was going to do it, and he didn't care who told him what. Watch Kobe taking shots with 3 or 4 guys on him, which are not necessarily the smartest shots, but they went in, and golly, dude, one of the most ridiculous, the greatest scorer of all time, probably, arguably, and just watching him play, and being able to switch to his left hand and score like that sometimes, and then I'm rolling. Another thing was that he learned to trash talk in different languages to talk to other people.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was hilarious, and that's super entertaining to watch.
Yeah, no, Kobe, I don't know. I don't think we'll ever see someone as dedicated to the game as Kobe Bryant. Like, he saw his life as basketball when he was playing.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see these videos of him when the Lakers weren't, they didn't have Powell anymore, they didn't have Shaq, and it was just basically Kobe on the team, and you see him literally trash talking his own teammates in practice, telling him how you can't guard me, all this. Like, you don't see players like that today. And was it bad for the team at times? Of course. But he was that driving force that they needed just to stay relevant almost. Like, they stopped making the playoffs, everything like that, but you still saw, Kobe's still there, so they still have people watching the games. And I think he always gets undershadowed just because a lot of people make the arguments, he was only great early on because of Shaq. He only won those championships because Powell was on the team, But I think we just, at the end of the day, you have to recognize the greatness that he protruded on the basketball court.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right, well, those are our top fives. If you have your own top fives, go ahead and you can leave them in the comments below. But yeah, this was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right.
We will be back with another episode soon. And yeah, thanks for watching.
Ba-dum-bum. That was so short.
It was like 20 minutes.
It was 23 minutes total, but we didn't start talking 6 minutes in.